I saw this on a TikTok. Okay. If you could own any piece of art, what would it be and why?
Okay. So I have been thinking about this for all of about 30 minutes.
Okay.
I don't know enough art to know that there's probably some really good art out there, yada, yada, yada. That's really great.
There's also some really bad art.
There's a proper answer to this question. Neither of the ones I'm about to give you are the proper answer.
Okay, love it.
One is probably the wishful answer, and one is like a realistic answer of a piece of art that I've wanted to buy for a while.
Okay, but let's pretend. Okay, I really.
Which one do you want?
I'll take both.
Because it says if you could own, and there's one that I've...
Yeah, but I guess my if was to be limitless. So there's no restrictions on finances or even like feasibility. It doesn't have to fit. It would fit wherever you're, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Sometimes they're really big.
Yeah.
Okay, but you can give me both answers. I will not... Let me not restrict your creativity.
Now I have 3 answers.
Oh, Lord. Okay.
Okay. Top end answer. The Last Supper.
By Leonardo da Vinci.
Yeah, Da Vinci.
Okay.
Iconic.
Yes.
That'd be cool.
Love it.
Second.
You just want... pause. You want it just because it's cool?
Yeah.
Okay, done. All right. That's solid.
Yeah.
No, I just wanted to verify.
Yeah.
That I apologize if it sounded like judgment. I just wanted more information. Okay. All right.
Second answer.
Yes.
An OG Bob Ross.
And okay.
I've actually heard those are worth quite a bit.
An OG.
Yeah, an original Bob Ross.
OG Bob Ross, got it.
Because they're beautiful. And who wouldn't want a Bob Ross?
Beautiful.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
Okay.
But you don't care which one. You just
I don't
want
care which one. Just give me
with
one.
With happy little trees.
Give me happy little trees and happy little accidents. Third answer. This is the realistic one. There's this artwork. There's a guy named Kelly Lattimore who does like modern icons, and he does one of Jesus and Mary Magdalene in the garden. Yeah. And it's on like wood or something. And I know it's for sale. And there was like half a second I almost bought it for the church so we could hang it up in our hallway, and then I didn't. But anyway, so that's the third answer.
I'm sad. We should hang it up in the church. I love it.
Onward.
Okay, no, it's good. Now I'm gonna have to Google that one.
Which one?
The Latimer one.
Oh yeah.
I know about Da Vinci and Bob Ross. Thanks so much. You know, we did a Bob Ross night recently.
I know. I was there for it.
Oh, that's right. I wasn't.
Ironic. You weren't there. I was there.
Ironic. Okay. If I was going to own a piece, I would own one. I had to look up the whole name. I knew it was Ginevra, but it's Ginevra de Vinci, I guess is how you say it. Vinci? I don't know because it's Italian. It's also by Leonardo da Vinci. I'll show it to you. I see you trying to peep my phone.
Yeah, I was like, you got this thing pulled up, right?
Because of the major that I had in college, here it is. I'll do my best to edit it into the video.
That looks like our hair.
What? Oh, the bush looks like our hair?
Yeah.
It's more green than that in real life. Okay. So it's a woman, like a Renaissance woman.
Yeah.
Facing forward.
She kind of looks like Mona Lisa.
Yeah. Well, same artist, right? So she's facing forward, looking at the artist or at the like observer, right? Mm-hmm. And judging them. She's not happy. She's not smiling. So this painting is sort of a big deal because it's one of the few. Da Vinci was like really known for painting women who looked straight ahead, as opposed to in that time a lot of like Renaissance painting, women looked like they were in profile, right? Okay. And a lot of the symbolism around her as well is intended to let you know that she's an independent woman, independent of means, and like it's very, anyway. It was a big deal. I had to take this random class.
Your answer's a lot better than my answer.
Well, I mean, I was the one who asked the question.
Oh, that's fair.
And the one who saw all the TikToks. So. But like, I had to take this random class in undergrad about art history, like some credit I had to get. Mm-hmm. And that, for whatever reason, that painting always stood out to me. And then it's in the National Art Gallery in DC, in one of the Smithsonian's. Mm-hmm. So you can actually go and like see it. It's one of the few Da Vinci's that's in the States. So yeah. Anyway, cool. That would be my answer. I also really enjoy everything by Van Gogh.
Yeah. Did you go to the exhibit when it came?
I did. It was super cool. That immersive thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. I really...
No, the one at the Fine Arts. Or is it both? They had like two things at the same time.
I did that. I did both of those things.
Okay.
Yes. Yes. But the immersive thing was really cool. Did you do that?
No.
Oh, it was really cool.
I've done a Disney version of it, though.
Of course you have.
Miley loved it.
I mean, it was cool. The one that they did had like a thing at the end where you could do your own like little painting and stuff.
Oh, that was cool.
It was very cool. Yeah.
Nice.
So anyway, we didn't exactly talk about art on Sunday.
Not exactly.
But we talked about beauty.
Yeah.
Which is what made me think about art and being artistic as we continue to talk about inspiring faith.
Yes.
So let's get into it. Let's talk about beauty. Well, I'm Becca. I'm the pastor of Family Ministries here at Katy First.
And I'm Mark. I'm the senior pastor at Katy First.
Welcome to the Katy First Family Podcast, where we offer ideas, inspiration, and encouragement to help you and your family grow as joyful disciples of Jesus Christ. This week, we are talking about inspiring faith and beauty. So right off the bat on Sunday, you started with a quote. Beauty will save the world from, I wrote it down phonetically. Are you ready?
Okay, good. I'm ready for someone else to try this.
Dostoevsky? Did I get it right?
You say it. I don't, Dostoevsky.
Okay.
Fyodor Dostoevsky.
Very cool. So how did you find that quote?
Well, so.
Did you just Google beauty and AI
it's from the
gave
book.
it to you?
So the book, I referenced
yes.
book. So the book by Brian Zahnd, who's a pastor in Missouri. He wrote a book called Beauty Will Save the World. And
so he stole that.
Yeah, so the book title is based off of
Got it. Borrowed.
Dostoevsky's.
Like we do.
Yes, borrowed from him saying it first.
Okay, got it.
And then he sort of talks about it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Why did you feel like that's where you should start?
Well, I just find that line really compelling. I think I remember when I first heard, I guess from him, was probably I don't know, like 5 years ago or so. And so just the line "Beauty will save the world" just is like, I don't know, you don't hear that kind of language, or I hadn't. And what does that mean? What did he mean by that? So I just felt like that's a very compelling, sort of interesting idea. What do you mean beauty will save the world? And it's so, that particular line, I think, captures what a lot of this series is trying to do, and saying, like, we so often think of faith in these other aspects of, well, truth and goodness, like we talked about, and we sort of let beauty slide away. Yeah. So I just like it because it like elevates this thing that we often relegate to second status, or much further down as a nicety, but not an essential.
You said that in your sermon, and that as I thought about it and reflected on it, I have some questions about that, because I think you're absolutely right. But I think that that is a uniquely Protestant sort of
issue. That beauty has slipped.
Yes, and which I think then also, like, just because of the way the country is founded, then it also kind of becomes sort of an American church phenomenon as well. But historically, that was not true for the church, right? I mean, if we think about beautiful cathedrals, there was this intrinsic idea originally that beautiful worship spaces would help us to connect to God, right? That they should inspire us to look up. The beauty around us should inspire us to look up. But we don't, 100%. We don't build spaces quite like that. There's always this sort of like Protestant practicality that comes in that sometimes will not eliminate beauty, but not lean on it as heavy, right? We wouldn't do something just because it's pretty. It should also be functional. Like, why do you think that is?
Well, I definitely think some of it is the Protestant tradition that we inherited. Sure. For sure. Probably alongside of that, and those are kind of, we talked about this the first week, just the whole like enlightenment. And an age of reason and science that sort of moved us away from a world. In this other book that I quoted, Hunting Magic Eels, which is a fascinating book title, he kind of talks about that too. when you begin to understand a world in numbers and reason, and we now know gravity, it can be, two things can be true. We learn that stuff, and it can also, this world begins to feel less inspired, magical, because now we know the numbers behind it or something. And so I think some of that is all sort of in the same bucket of multiple factors that probably as Protestant Americans, we just sort of inherit a tradition now that relegates those things that maybe in different traditions is still alive, or 100 years ago were still on the table and now have kind of slowly fallen away.
Yeah.
But I think there's just a lot of answers to it, a lot of things.
Well, I think all of that makes sense. Enlightenment, reason.
Well, and can I also say, like, I do think, so we can go this way, and then if we lean so far into this, at a certain point we'll go, but I want a practical faith. So I think
so the pendulum maybe felt like it swung too far.
So I don't want to
Yeah.
I think there's a reason why we swung away maybe from mystery and some of these things, because maybe that it created a faith that felt less
too
grounded,
airy.
too airy, too.
That's fair.
And so we kind of swung back the other way, and again, and that's what this series is trying to say, like, we just want to hold the ground a little better in the middle.
Yeah. No, I think that's really good. You talked a lot about a couple of Greek words, I think. I had to think what language they were. I don't know that I remember how to say either of them correctly. Dioko?
Yeah.
Okay.
You got it.
So that is like pursuing.
Yes.
Your examples of how that would apply were, Mark, they were all over the place.
I wanted them to feel all over the place. Okay. That was intentional.
Hey, A+ then. You did so good. Because you talked about how it's pursuing, like you have a crush on somebody and you pursue them, but also like a lion pursues its prey, which, by the way, maybe we don't put those next to each other. I think maybe you didn't. I think there was another example.
There were more examples in between that.
Those are the ones that stood out to me.
I was trying to capture that, in our English translations, we miss often that one Greek word is getting translated multiple different ways.
Yeah. That's good.
And sometimes those Greek words are intentional connectors that we miss some of the nuance. And I think this word is one of those. And so I wanted to, this word dioko could mean this and this, just depending on the context. Oh, by the way, here, let's read about Paul. We see this as a word of persecution. That's how it's translated. But there could be a double entendre happening here.
Yeah.
Saul, why do you persecute me? Why do you dioko me? Could Jesus also be saying, why do you not know that you are pursuing me?
Yeah.
And you are pursuing the church. Mm-hmm. And so God takes this zeal of Paul and doesn't get rid of it. Mm-hmm. He redirects it.
Yeah.
And uses that sense of intentional pursuit now for the church and for Christ. So it makes that kind of come alive a little bit.
Yeah, no, I thought it was a really helpful word study and thought process to think about persecuting versus pursuing, right? Which he is persecuting the church. That's
he
true.
For sure is.
But also for it to be pursuing, I think is great, right? The idea that he's been searching for God all along. And was trying, I think that's one of the things about Paul, poor Paul, is he tries so hard.
He's such a try hard.
He gives a lot of effort because he tries, he's always very zealous.
Yeah.
And here he sort of verges on zealot, I would say.
Yeah, for sure.
And so he's actively trying to do what he thinks is right. He thinks this by pursuing this heresy that he is honoring God. I genuinely believe that from what I've read in Scripture.
Yeah.
And yet he encounters Christ on the road to Damascus and in a flash of light, and suddenly in seeing this light, he can't see anything else. And it stays that way for a little while.
Yeah.
So I think that the idea of like, this is part of Paul's personality, to pursue God, to try to follow God. And that Jesus just sort of redirects that, right? Puts it in proper perspective for him so that he can pursue what he really wants to pursue.
Right.
As opposed to persecute.
Yeah.
I think that's great. You talked about it as kind of dual things, this dioko and this.
This one looks like what it looks like. Pronounced the way it looks.
Is it an I? No? Id?
Idu.
Idu? Okay,
Yeah,
see,
idu.
that's...
Then it doesn't look what it looks like.
You're wrong, buddy. Idu?
Yeah,
Okay.
idu.
So that means to behold, you said.
Yeah,
So we
behold.
have pursue through dioko.
Yeah.
And then now I can't even say it again.
Idu.
Idu. I quit.
Get it?
To behold, this, to really see or to give particular attention, you said.
Yeah.
And that these two things go together. What jumped out to me is that these are both things that God does to us or for us. I'm not sure what the right verb there is.
Yeah.
Right. But God both pursues us and beholds us, actually sees us.
Yeah.
Because you said that idu word, behold, didn't mean just to like
put your eyes on something.
Yeah, it's like to really focus on it, to deeply see it in a way that almost is like to be connected, to know it. Yeah. And so these are both things that God does for us, pursues and really sees us. And then it made me think of like, okay, so when you want like Miley or when I want Sammy or any of the kids to do something, right? But I want it to not just be a one-time thing. I want them to learn this skill so that they can do it for themselves. The best way to teach it is to model it, right? If you see me doing it over and over and over again, and I sort of encourage and help you to do it, and then just step away and let you do it on your own, right? You actually start to do it and incorporate it into your, for instance, the fastest way to get it, this is in my house, the only way I can ever really get Sammy to correctly brush his teeth or wash his hands is if I do it at the same time.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like if he sees, he'll stop brushing his teeth in about 0.6 seconds. Just long enough to like lick the toothpaste off the toothbrush, right?
Yeah.
Do you not have this problem?
Yeah. Okay.
We have to brush, not chew, is a thing in our house. And so like, if I'll take my toothbrush into his bathroom and I also brush my teeth at the same time, he'll do it as long as I do it.
Yeah.
Right? Or if I want him to really wash his hands, I can't just squirt the little soap. I have to, you know. I feel like this is a really good instance where we can see God modeling this sort of like good parent behavior for us of, I pursue you, I behold you. I want you to do this back to me and for one another, right? And I just thought that was like a really, I don't know, for some reason for me that was important.
That. Yeah.
Because it is, I think, from what we talked about on Sunday and we read in Scripture, it's important for us to behold God and the beauty around us. And we see that in lots of different ways. So what are some like, one of the things that like stuck out to me is we talked about sight, which makes sense for this scripture. Paul couldn't see and then he could. There's lots of ways to behold a thing without seeing them. Yeah. Does that make sense? Like there's lots of beauty that we don't see. Like you could, like for instance, you could behold the beauty of a musical piece, right? But you don't see music. I mean, you might see a performance of it, but even as it's coming through instruments or someone singing, you're still not seeing it. But you're somehow still able to behold it, which makes almost no English language sense, but it's still somehow true. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
There's lots of different ways. So like I was trying to think of like, and help me think of like some good things, like examples of beauty that we can behold that don't necessarily involve our eyeballs.
That's That's a good question.
Thank you.
Well, I mean, I think so. I think food's a really good, easy way to do that. To eat your food slowly. Talk about what it is. Or even the process of having your kids help you make a meal.
Oh yeah.
And seeing like the ingredients or seeing the things going in, and like I think that's probably a form of kind of then once you eat that food and you taste it, these are all maybe ways that you're going to see it, but you're beholding with your taste in this sense. So that's an alternate way I think of teaching how we can behold or savor something. It's the first one that came to mind.
Oh, that's a good one. I thought about like the way things, I was just trying to hit all my senses, right? So we talk about music, we talk about things we can eat. We talked a few weeks ago about the fact that we went to Color Factory. A room that was there previously that was not there when we went. I don't know if it was there when you went last summer. There used to be this room. Oh, and they had like a hallway of it when we went. They used to have this room that you would walk in, and there were all these like colored PVC pipes that would come up. They went down along the outside and came up in the middle. And they had scents, different smells.
Yeah.
And you could walk up, but they had tons of them. So one was like fresh cut grass.
Yeah.
And there's something really evocative about smell and the way it connects to memory. So, I mean, anybody who's ever walked into like a coffee shop, right? The minute you smell coffee, I think it evokes a feeling, maybe good or bad, right?
Yeah.
Or like the other day, a church member brought in a cake last Tuesday.
Yeah.
This isn't super smell, but it made me think of this anyway. They brought in a cake that was delicious, but also it was a cake my grandma used to make all the time. I can't remember. I think it's a Texas sheet cake. Is that what it's called?
Yeah. I remember we talked about like 5 different names that this thing is called.
Well, that's Texas food for you. But like, it was so good. But it made me so nostalgic for my grandma. I think sometimes smells or taste, like they're so evocative of other things, and it can make you feel safe or seen in that moment, right? I don't think smelling I do think you could smell something and it make you feel seen or beholden. Does that make sense what I'm saying? I feel like I used 16 words. 60.
Well, I mean, I think any of these, the kind of common thread is just this sense of like this, like a slowing down and enjoying, savoring, beholding.
Yeah. That's good.
And you can do those with any of those senses, but all sort of as a practice of noticing the detail, noticing the nuance that we so often miss that can.
Yeah.
And I think that stuff translates to faith. It translates to being someone who notices the movement of God and the grace of God. And the way I read scripture, that's, I like the little nuanced details, and not that just reading over it quickly. In fact, I have to I'm reading Acts right now, and it's so, Acts reads so like a book. It's easy to just kind of like choo, choo, choo. And I have to remind myself, just slow down a little bit and go back in and read it a little slower. And then I get some of the beauty that I miss when I go too quickly. So, yeah.
It's good.
I think all that kind of that part of that beholding.
No, I think it's good. The reason I ask is because it occurred to me, like, it makes sense to talk about beholden. It's in the scripture. But that's, I think, the go-to way that we experience beauty. But there are times where, like Paul, there are times when we can't see. And also I thought about people who can't see in general, right?
Like literally.
There are people who are blind, or like my mom is legally deaf in like one of her ears, and just very hard of hearing in the other, and so she really struggles. And one of the things she likes about coming to worship here is she can hear Barry because his voice is just in the right like register that she can hear him when he sings, and so it's it's something she has missed. And so I thought about like the ways that we can experience beauty, how it changes for whatever reason based on the way like maybe our bodies work.
Yeah.
But somehow doesn't disappear.
Yeah.
It just shifts. And I think that actually that might be paying attention to that idea might give us some hints on ways we can more deeply pay attention.
Yeah.
You know what does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Talking about paying attention, one of the things you talked about was this idea of disenchantment.
Mm-hmm. I like this quote. Yeah.
You said that disenchantment isn't disbelief, but rather it's a failure to attend. I don't think I got that quote exactly right.
No, that is it. That's it. That is from the Magical Eels book. I just went blank on the name of the title. Hunting Magical Eels.
Yeah.
Disenchantment isn't about disbelief, but rather a failure to attend. This book is talking a lot of what we were just talking about. Is recovering a faith that sees this sort of inspired world, and I like that because when our faith feels dry, or we are wrestling with what we believe, that sense of wilderness or that sense of dryness is connecting it back to attention is something that we can all do, and something that even if I'm still wrestling with what I believe, paying attention to God's grace can still reawaken me. And I think it's pretty true. Even in my own personal experience, it's usually being more attuned to God's grace and presence and beauty often helps me recover more than reading a biblical commentary or something.
I can't remember if I told this story on the podcast or if maybe we were just talking about it with staff. But on Easter Sunday, did I tell this story last week?
I don't think so.
Okay. On Easter Sunday morning, it was raining. And I'm trying to scramble to move the Easter egg hunt from the planned playground to the to the gym. And I do not like a last minute scramble. I don't mind having to be adaptable, but I don't like having to haul 1,400 eggs at the last minute, and I feel like I'm messing with everybody's plans, and I just want a little more time, right?
Yeah.
And it was really stressing me out. And so I'm running back and forth across the street, and we're rolling gently eggs everywhere, all over the gym. And families are coming in, and it's very humid and gross outside. And so they're coming in these really cute outfits, and they're just like, I feel like sweating to death as they try to come into church, and now they're crammed into this like tiny entryway. So I say to one of the families as they walk in, good morning. Yeah. I'm so glad you're here. I'm so sorry that, this weather has changed our plans, and, it's such a gross morning. And they said, oh, we're just out here looking for rainbows. And I was like, oh, that's really nice.
I love that.
I know. And I was just like, but isn't that great? Because it did. It was still raining, but a little bit, but the sun had come out.
Yeah.
And so they're looking for rainbows. And I think that's a great example of what it means to go slow enough to really be able to see the good stuff.
Yeah.
The beauty that's around.
Yeah, that's a really good example.
Yeah, right. And it's such a small thing. And I think that's a really good way to like jump into it with your family as a practice.
Yeah.
You can ask your kids. We want to try and give you questions to ask your kids. And it's okay if they don't all work. And it's okay if your kids don't answer. But ask your kids, like, where did you see something beautiful today? Or what was the most beautiful thing you saw today or this week or whatever?
Yeah.
Or tell me about something beautiful today.
Yeah.
And I think the other thing you can do on the flip side of that is if your kids are really little, like, I don't know for Sammy, if I asked him if he saw something beautiful, he'd have any idea what I'm asking him. But I can point to things and go, look how beautiful that is.
Yeah.
His favorite thing in the world right now is to tell me how cute everything is.
It's so cute.
That's so cute. He says it just like that. But I think that's a special thing to get to share together, to get to call out the good stuff.
Yeah, I agree. You know, the reticular activating system.
Oh my gosh.
So can I tell you about that though?
You're so excited. Yes.
I know.
No, I'm here for it.
I'll make this quick.
No, you're fine. I'm sorry.
So we brought this up in staff earlier in the week. We were talking about what, like when you notice things because you're talking about. Yeah, because
you talked about the tires. I remember that.
The example of tires. I kid you not. The next day I'm listening to a podcast. They bring this up and the guy goes, "Oh yeah, I think that's the reticular activating system." And I'm like,
because it even works for the system.
It even works I was like, how did that pop up? Like literally, I've never heard that before in my life. We just talked about it. Now it works for the sermon, and I think it's fascinating. But all that to say, you know, I like asking, how do you see beauty? No matter what is beautiful, it's bringing forward at least maybe something in our mind that looks for beauty.
Yeah.
Right. So like it just attunes us to it, and I'm sure there's some studies about it already, but I would just be curious what it would mean for kids who grew up in a faith where they're constantly asked to see beauty, how that's forming and shaping them in incredible ways. You know, like I'm sure that is.
If you're taught to look for God by looking for truth and goodness and beauty, how does that give you maybe a more well-rounded picture of the nature of God?
Yeah.
And which makes it more invitational.
Yeah.
Maybe then you want to Diogo God. Do you see how I did that? Are you so proud of me right now?
And you even pronounced it correctly.
I mean, I'm so on top of it right now.
That's good.
Thanks. I just listened to a really good sermon about this recently.
Yeah, right.
Well, I want to, before we kind of close up, I want to make sure to invite our families to the art show. I've already gotten some great artwork. In fact, one of them is a beautiful ocean scene with eels. No joke.
How about them apples?
There you go. It's that reticulating
Everything is just...
Yeah, and so I want to invite you, bring up whatever artwork from home. It does not, the size is not super important. I mean, if it's bigger than what I can fit in the gym, I'd be impressed, honestly. Yeah. It's a big space. So bring up some artwork from your home, 1 or 2 pieces, per kiddo, or per anybody. Anybody can participate. I have artwork from teenagers and kids right now. I'd love some, and one adult too. And so I'd love to have some more art. I just need your name on, it doesn't have to be on the outside of the piece. You can just put it on a sticky note and I'll make a little tag. But your name, the name of the artwork, and the materials you used. So crown on paper, totally fine, right? Or watercolor on canvas, whatever. But I need to know, because that's what the official art tags say.
I like it.
So it has to have that.
That's
on there.
Cool.
And that's going to be happening on Sunday,
May
18th. I was like, what month are we in? That's literally what happened in my head just now. Sunday, May 18th. So not this Sunday, but next.
Yep.
And it'll be right after worship. You can come, peruse, and just enjoy seeing not just the art, but seeing the great creativity of the people in our church family, especially the young people.
Yeah.
And they will feel so encouraged, and so will you.
Yeah.
So it's just a win-win for everybody.
It'll be fun.
So I hope you'll be a part of that. We want to thank you for joining us today, and we hope that you have found some inspiration and encouragement for yourself and for your family. If you'd like to get our podcast delivered directly to you each week, you can subscribe on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, or follow us on YouTube. For more information about Katy First and upcoming events for your family, visit our website at katyfirst.org. Most importantly, we want you to know this, that in the middle of your ordinary, messy life, whatever that looks like for you in this moment, you are not alone. You are doing a good job, and you are so, so loved.
And we hope you'll join us on Sunday. Speaking of creativity, that is the next topic for this week.
It.
Creativity. It's also Mother's Day. We're going to have a pretty little picture backdrop. So we would love for you to join us, or we'll be back here next week. Have a good day.